In the section right before this one, I put a football.csv file. So this has all the raw soccer or football data inside of it. Remember, each row represents one single match. Please make sure that you download this file and put it into your root project directory. So you can see right now it's inside my root directory. It is not inside src. It is not inside build. It's in the root project folder. Okay, so now that we've got this file, we can start to think about exactly what we're going to do with it. Remember, our goal here is to take all the information in that file, load it into our application, then parse it, analyze it, and generate some kind of report. So in this video, we're going to figure out how to load up information out of that file using the Node.js standard library. Let's take a look at the documentation for Node.js and understand how to open up and read the contents of a file. You can find the documentation for Node.js at this link right here. So I'm going to copy that link and open it up inside of a new browser tab. On the left-hand side, you'll see all the different modules that are available inside the Node standard library. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit and find a section called File System right here. So in the File System module, we can then scroll down a pretty good amount. We are looking for a function called fs.readFileSync. So here it is right here, read file sync. So I'll take a look at the documentation for that. We can call readFileSync and then pass in the name of the file that we want to open. So in this case, it would be the football.csv file. When we call readFileSync, it's then going to return back to us the entire contents of that file as a plain string. And so we're going to essentially get back one big string with all of our data inside of it, like one big string with all this information. So obviously, we're probably not going to want to work with this information as a big string, and so that's where we're going to have to do some kind of like parsing logic or something like that to take that big string and put it into a much more usable data structure. But we'll figure out how to do that in just a little bit. All right, so now that we understand how to load up the contents of a file, let's flip back over to our editor and get started. Inside of my index.ts file, we first have to import the fs module from the Node standard library. To do so, we can write out import fs from fs, like so. Now right away, we see a nasty little error message here. So it says, okay, fs is declared but never read. That's fine, because we're going to use the library in just a second. But more importantly, we see an error that says cannot find module fs. So where is this coming from? Just to be clear, this fs thing right here stands for file system. This is the module in the Node standard library that we are just looking at. In a typical Node.js application, we can write out a require statement for the fs module without having to do any like pre-installation step of the fs module or anything like that. And so it seems like this error right here is a little bit out of place, and I don't quite understand why we are seeing it. Well, it turns out we know exactly why we are seeing this error. The issue is that Typescript is reporting the error incorrectly to us. Let's take a look at a diagram, and I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. All right. So as a quick reminder, we spoke a little bit ago in a previous application about type definition files. Remember, when we work with Typescript, we can freely work with different JavaScript libraries. The only requirement is that we have to install something called that type definition file. The type definition files tell Typescript about all the different objects, properties, functions, and function arguments and return values inside of these JavaScript libraries. So anytime we want to work with a third-party JavaScript library, we have to install that type definition file unless it is included by default with the library itself. So it turns out the same is true of Node.js as well. Whenever we work with Node.js, from Typescript, we have to install a type definition file. The type definition file tells Typescript about all the different modules inside the Node standard library, all the different properties they have, all the different functions, and all those functions' signatures as well. So you might think that Typescript should ship with support for Node out of the box, or at least these type definition files. Unfortunately, nope, not the case. Anytime we want to make use of the Node standard library, we have to install that type definition file. Now, one thing to point out here, normally when we install a type definition file, we use that formula that looks something like, let me pull up my editor here really quickly. Normally we did like an npm install with something that looks like @types and then like the name of library, right? And so in this case, you might be thinking that we would do an npm install @types types/fs, because that is the name of the module we are trying to pull in. Well, no, not quite. Lots of big surprises here. Whenever we want to get the type definition file for any node module, like anything inside the standard library, we're always going to install the same type definition file. So let's flip back over to our terminal. We're going to install this file, and you'll figure out what the name of it is. All right, so back inside my terminal, I'm going to stop my running development process here with a Control-C, and then to install that type definition file, we'll do npm install at types/node, like so. So anytime we are using anything inside the node standard library, we are always going to install at types/node. That's pretty much it. All right, so I'll run that. I'm then going to start up my npm start script again. I'll then flip back over to my editor, and now you'll notice that error message has gone away. So like I said, this is another issue around type definition files. The thing that is really unfortunate here is that if you recall back when we were working with type definition files before, Typescript gave us a very clear error message. It said, hey, make sure you install a type definition file. But when we make use of a node module or anything out of the node standard library, it instead just says, hey, cannot find module fs, which is super not helpful at all. Nonetheless, that's how it works. So just remember, anytime you use a built-in node standard library module, you have to install that type definition file. And that's pretty much it. All right, so let's take a quick pause right here. When we come back in the next video, we're going to finish writing out our code to open up our football.csv file and read the contents of it.